Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Saturday, the 1st of February 2025. Vehicle imports. Sri Lanka lifts the ban on the import of personal usage vehicles. Temporary ban on vehicle imports imposed in early 2020 completely removed. Financial assistance. World Bank agreed to grant the largest tranche of funds ever allocated to Sri Lanka next year, reveals President. SOE restructuring. Committee report on restructuring state-owned enterprises to be submitted to the President in 2 weeks.
113කට අධික ආයතන ප්‍රමාණයක් අඳුරගෙන තියෙනවා රීස්ට්‍රක්චර් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
Government ready to enlist the support of the private sector to better manage SOEs.
අවශ්‍ය ඕනම වෙලාවක පෞද්ගලික අංශයේ සහයෝගය යොදව ගන්න අපි කටයුතු.
Eviction notice. A bill to be presented to Parliament to evict former President Mahinda Rajapaksa from his official residence, claims the Deputy Minister of Public Security.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasave වැස්සත් මට්ටුවෙන් ගෙදරත් තිස්නේ.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story tonight, Sri Lanka officially lifted the temporary ban imposed on the import of personal usage vehicles with effect from today. With the lifting of the import restriction on personal usage vehicles, the temporary ban on vehicle imports imposed in early 2020 will be completely removed. However, vehicle importers raised concerns over the government's decision to allow the importation of vehicles that are 2 years old instead of the previous limit of 5 to 7 years from the date of manufacture. In March 2020, the government of Sri Lanka imposed a ban on vehicle imports to ease pressure on the country's foreign exchange reserves due to the economic crisis triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and economic mismanagement. However, with the economic recovery, the incumbent government revealed plans to resume the importation of vehicles under a 3-stage vehicle import ban relaxation as planned by the previous administration with specifications from the Finance Ministry. Accordingly, President Anura Dissanayake issued an extraordinary Gazette notification allowing the re-import of electric cars and hybrid vehicles used for personal use with effect from today. Permission has also been granted to import public passenger transport vehicles, special purpose vehicles, commercial or goods transport vehicles, personal usage vehicles and other non-motorized goods. Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development imposed 9 conditions concerning vehicle importation with a view to encouraging the revival of normal economic activities and safeguarding the economic stability of the country. Accordingly, vehicles can be imported by the importers registered with the Department of Motor Traffic and state institutions. Any other importer is permitted to import only 1 vehicle within a period of 12 months. Any imported motor vehicle shall be registered with the Department of Motor Traffic in the name of the buyer or in the name of the importer within 90 days from the date of the bill of entry. If an importer fails to register any imported motor vehicle within 90 days, such importers shall be liable to pay a monthly late fee of 3% of the cost insurance freight value up to a maximum capacity of 45% of the CIF value. Additionally, no motor vehicle shall be allowed for importation and customs release using the motor vehicle import permits which have been issued with concessionary rates of duties. The conditions further read that if any motor vehicle is imported in violation of the prevailing rules and regulations, such motor vehicles will be re-exported by the respective importer within 90 days from the date of the bill of entry. Meanwhile, 4 types of taxes will be considered to determine the total amount of tax on vehicle imports. These include the special tax on vehicle levy, luxury taxes, excise duty and the value-added tax. The luxury tax, which comes into effect for the first time, will be charged under several categories for vehicles worth more than 5 million rupees. The rate of value-added taxes imposed on vehicle imports this year stands at 18%. According to the Gazette notification, the levy of excise duty varies from vehicle to vehicle depending on the engine capacity. In addition, vehicle import duties that were exempted in 2023 have been reinforced with effect from today. Accordingly, a 50% surcharge was imposed on the import duty of vehicles applicable for 1 year. Provisions have also been made to charge a total customs import duty of 30% on the importation of motor vehicles. In the meantime, the issued Extraordinary Gazette also outlines the import duties applicable to electric vehicles based on their power capacity. According to the notification, duties will be levied on electric vehicles below 50 kilowatts, between the range of 50 and 100 kilowatts, between 100 and 200 kilowatts, and exceeding 200 kilowatts. Some vehicles saw a reduction in prices while the prices of other vehicles were increased. For instance, the prices of cabs have come down at the moment. Accordingly, a cab can be purchased at a price of 25 million rupees this year. However, the prices of vans have slightly increased. The imported vehicles will arrive in the country within 3 weeks. However, prices of second-hand vehicles will be determined with respect to those of brand new vehicles once they are imported into the country. The prices of the second-hand market will be reduced by 10 to 15%. The Prius has a 1800cc engine. The duty imposed on vehicles of that engine capacity is comparatively high. It is not worth the price. The Aqua has an engine of 1500cc which has a low duty structure. Such vehicles can be imported to Sri Lanka. We requested the government to import vehicles exceeding 7 years from the date of manufacture rather than those exceeding 2 years. This has to be rectified. If not, we won't be able to import vehicles that are 3 years old. Sri Lanka is unable to purchase any vehicle manufactured in December 2022. We can only purchase vehicles manufactured in 2023.
Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
TV සුපිරි deal.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Responsibility to look after our health.
The best nutritional supplement for diabetic patients with no added sugar. Maliban Vitagen. Stay healthy for a good reason.
President Anura Dissanayake revealed that the World Bank has agreed to allocate the largest tranche of funds it has ever allocated to Sri Lanka next year. Meanwhile, commenting on the lifting of vehicle import restrictions, President Dissanayake noted that the government expects to reduce prices of vehicles following the importation of the initial batch of vehicles. Addressing a gathering in Gulnavar, President Anura Dissanayake further revealed that the CID will continue investigations against corrupt politicians and subsequent action will be taken against them during the month.
President Anura Dissanayake joined a public gathering of the National People's Power in Chavakacheri yesterday.
Nepotistic politics had been in practice in Sri Lanka for generations. The recent elections defeated this pattern. The people of this country were able to ensure the defeat of nepotistic politics and establish a government of the people. This country was governed by a class who considered themselves to be above ordinary citizens. We defeated this political pattern. We are of the same class and we have established a government. You placed your trust in us when you elected the government. It is our responsibility to protect your trust. We expect to implement massive transformations in our country's politics, economy and society. We will establish a people-centric political culture which focuses on preventing misappropriation of public assets. We must save the youth and children from the drug menace. It is being reported that a significant number of individuals in the Jaffna district have fallen prey to the drug menace. We will launch a special operation to tackle this issue. However, that requires the support of the people. We will not allow racism to continue in Sri Lanka. We must eradicate racism.
Meanwhile, today the President joined a public gathering of the National People's Power in Galgamur.
දැන් අවුරුදු ගණනාවක් තිස්සේ අපේ රට වාහන ආනයනය කරන්නේ නැහැ.
Sri Lanka halted vehicle imports during the past couple of years. However, today we gave the green light to import vehicles for personal use after several years. This is a very difficult task which must be carefully executed. If all those who expect to buy vehicles import vehicles in February, this will drive up the dollar exchange rate. Therefore, we will allow the import of vehicles methodically. Vehicle prices increased as the value of the dollar has increased. We have imposed a set of taxes. If there's an increase in demand, that will create a possibility for another crisis. Prices of vehicles might increase during the first phase. We expect to lower prices after a certain period of time. We are implementing economic transformations. Some claimed that we will not be able to maintain international relations. We expect to visit countries of the Middle East in mid-February to hold talks related to an agreement on oil. The World Bank has agreed to allocate the largest tranche of funds it has ever allocated to Sri Lanka next year. We are building the economy and we need time. We've handed over a country which faces many issues including a collapsed economy and a debt crisis. Majority of our efforts are directed towards solving already existing issues. We have not had the opportunity to implement our own initiatives. The passport issue is one of the issues which the previous government left unsolved. We expect to solve this issue. We will re-recruit retired passport officials and implement a 24-hour service in order to address this matter. One of the main concerns of the people of this country was to ensure that politicians were no longer allowed to steal and exploit assets. We have implemented it. My expenditure head has been reduced by 50%. I assure you I will save most of those funds within the year. We do not exploit. We requested former presidents to make certain sacrifices towards this goal. We told one of them that the residence, which spans across 30,500 square feet, is too big for him. Recently, 470 million rupees had been spent on renovations. When we told him the residence is too big, he responded by saying that we are seeking revenge against them. This is not directed at seeking revenge. Do not exploit the people's money. Kindly return the house. If he does not have a residence to live in, we will provide one which is sufficient for 2 persons. How can he say he does not have a residence to live in when he held the presidency for 10 years? His salary has been credited to his bank account, but he claims to have missed it. It is the personal secretary who had been using it. His son too had not accepted his salary for years, even though it was credited to the relevant bank account. Imagine the wealth they possess if they can't remember their own salaries. We will provide him with a residence, however, it will not be his current residence. What will happen to corrupt politicians? The Criminal Investigation Department is conducting numerous investigations. As per their reports, action will be taken against certain individuals in February. Investigations will be carried out accordingly. 29 vehicles at the Presidential Secretariat were reported missing today. This is a country with no proper laws. We will transform Sri Lanka into a nation with law-abiding citizens. We have not governed the country before and you placed your trust in us. We will not break your trust. This government cannot be collapsed by actions of previously defeated parties as long as your support for us continues. Now, Deputy Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs Sunil Watagala claims that a bill will be presented to Parliament in the upcoming days regarding the eviction of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa from his official residence. Meanwhile, several politicians expressed their opinions regarding the matter. As parliamentarians, we do not expect luxury residences. The housing complex in Madivela provides facilities for parliamentarians who reside far from Colombo. These housing complexes do not even have proper facilities. I saw that the meeting between the Sambagi Jana Balawege and the United National Party was held at Harshana Rajakaruna's residence. They engaged in politics as a hobby during their vacation. We do not fantasize about luxury residences and vehicles. We use our own vehicles and do our job. Governments change over time. However, governments that harbor revengeful intentions do not have long lifespans. If someone is attempting to take revenge politically against former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, we can clearly say that this is political hypocrisy. If they plan to remove the former president from his residence, there will be citizens who will build a residence for him at their own expense.
රොකට් යවපු ඊට පස්සේ ලෝයස්ලා වෙච්ච ඊළඟට නාවික හමුදාව වෙන වෙන ෆෝස් දරපු මේ උස් දඬු වෙච්ච එන මේ පුතාලා තුන් දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඉතින් අනේ ගිහලා මේ තාත්තව තියාගන්න බැයිද? අපි කියලා තියෙන්නේ අනේ මේ ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ගෙයක් දීලා තියෙනවා. ඔයා පුළුවන් නම් කුලිය දීලා ඉන්න. ඔච්චරයි. ලියුම් දෙන්න දෙයක් නෑ. ලියුම්ුත් එයි.
මේ අහිංසක මිනිස්සයා දැන් මේ සනීප වෙලා වයසට ගිහිල්ලා ඉන්නේ ඒ මිනිස්සයාට මේ විදියට කෙනෙහිලිකම් කරගෙන යම් යම් පීඩාවන් වලට මානසිකව ශාරීරිකව ඒ වගේ පීඩාවට පත් කරන හදනවා නම් මේව මොන ආණ්ඩුද? මේ ආණ්ඩු පත් කළ තියෙන මිනිස්සු මේ වගේ දේවල් කරන්නද?
මේ මහින්ද ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඉන්න නිවස අලුත් වැඩියා කරත් ඒකට අලුත් වටිනාකමක් එකතු වුණා. ඔය කියන විදිහට ලිෆ්ට් එකක් දැම්මත් මේවා මහින්ද ජනාධිපතිතුමා ගෙදර යන දේවල් නෙමේ කවදකවත්. මේක රජයේ දේපල. මේ දේපල අයිති වෙන්නේ රජයට. මේක 88 89 යුගයේ නෙමේ තුන්ඩු කෑලි දීලා එහෙම නැත්නම් තර්ජනය කළා කෙනෙක්ව ගෙයින් දොට්ට දාන්න.
ගියේ නැත්නම් ඉතින් පනත එනවනේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට තව නොබෝ දිනකින්. ඒ පනතේ නීත්‍යානුකූල ප්‍රතිපාදන මතම යන්න වෙනවා.
දුවක් ගහන්නද තාම එතකොට යන්න කියලා.
ලිපියක් ගහන්න නැහැ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ පනතක්.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයබටිසෝල් සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
ප්‍රයිම් ගෲප් ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන ලෑන්ඩ් ලීසින් ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire kisi ginnak naha.
Kisi ginnak naha. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Secretary to the Ministry of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development, Tilaka Jayasundara, says the committee report on the restructuring of state-owned enterprises will be submitted to the President and the Cabinet of Ministers within 2 weeks. Speaking at a workshop for officials of institutions under the purview of the Ministry of Industry, Jayasundara added that the report has identified over 100 SOEs for restructuring. Meanwhile, joining the same event, Minister of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development Sunil Handunati stated that government is willing to partner with the private sector to better manage certain SOEs.
A workshop for officials of institutions under the purview of the Ministry of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development aimed at creating sustainable industrial growth was held yesterday in Colombo.
There is a significant number of government institutions that fail to submit financial statements in a timely manner. That means those reports are not being forwarded to Parliament, which is in charge of public finances. I request that this process be centralised under the new government. Of the 2,000 odd government institutions, I have only received a financial report from one institution so far this year.
The President mentioned that decisions would have to be taken regarding certain state-owned enterprises. The committee appointed to compile a report on the restructuring of state-owned enterprises has identified 113 SOEs to be restructured. We must eliminate the institutions that are only name boards and nothing more. There are some institutions which no one even knows where they are located. We expect to submit the committee report on the restructuring of state-owned enterprises to the President and the Cabinet of Ministers in another 2 weeks. Subsequently, we trust that we will receive instructions to implement the recommendations of the report.
අපිට අවශ්‍ය උපදෙස් ලැබේවි කියලා.
මේ නව රජයේ ඉලක්කය තියෙන්නේ රට ණයබරෙන් ගලවා ගැනීම.
Government's goal is to free Sri Lanka from the burden of debt by directing the country towards a manufacturing economy. Institutions which were previously decentralized are now under the purview of our ministry. During the economic summit, the President mentioned that public-private partnerships might be necessary to maintain certain state corporations and statutory boards. We are ready to enlist the support of the private sector whenever the need may arise. Sri Lanka has potential to move towards a manufacturing economy. During the recent past, our economy collapsed and industries and enterprises were stagnating. Many of the people who came to our ministry were burdened with debt. There is a considerable delay in obtaining approval for business operations. When starting a new business or industry, approval must be sought from some 20 institutions. The State Mineral Sands Corporation cannot obtain licenses from certain government institutions. If a government institution cannot provide a service for another government institution, what is there to be said about the experience of the public? Is it surprising that they feel the need to offer bribes to officials? Leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa underscored the significance of an effective mechanism to enhance the quality of life for impoverished Sri Lankans. Speaking to the public in Varakapola, the opposition leader emphasised that although poverty levels in Sri Lanka skyrocketed during the economic crisis, a proper mechanism to identify and support the impoverished population is yet to be introduced.
An event was organised yesterday at the Met Muni Viharaya in Varakapola under the patronage of Leader of the Opposition Sajith Premadasa.
ආර්ථික දුෂ්කරතාවෙන් රැසකට
We have to save our country, which is facing several economic challenges from its current slump. We must create a society that is capable of fulfilling basic needs. It is also imperative that we safeguard the impoverished community and take measures to improve their standard of living. Developing cities and villages should come before developing the nation. To accomplish these goals, everyone should work together regardless of their ethnicity, caste or religion. People living below the poverty line are not the supporters of one single political party. With the country declaring bankruptcy, there was a huge surge in the poverty level. To date, there isn't a correct definition for poverty in this country. This country still lacks the implementation of a proper program to assess poverty levels. However, it is crucial that we introduce an efficient mechanism to uplift the lives of those who are living in poverty. This cannot be carried out without the scientific data required for this process. And with that, here's a look at more local news in brief.
The Ministry of Defence confirmed that all of the firearms possessed by Yoshitha Rajapaksa have been returned. It was in accordance with the recent announcement by the Ministry of Defence that required all firearms issued with a license for self-defence to be returned for an evaluation prior to the consideration of reissuance. Yoshitha Rajapaksa previously returned 5 of the firearms he owned, and the remaining 2 were submitted later. In the meantime, a van and a bus collided head-on in the Alibango area on the Haburana-Trincomalee road, killing 2 passengers. The police said that 35 people were injured and suspected the cause of the accident to be the driver of the van falling asleep at the wheel. Meanwhile, a car travelling on the Badula-Colombo main road veered off the road and fell into the Baduluoya in the Haliaya-Nilboval area. The doctor who was driving the vehicle, a pregnant woman and 3 children in the car were injured. The police suspect that the driver falling asleep at the wheel is the cause of the accident. In the meantime, a jeep that was driven by a group of officers of the President's Security Division was involved in an accident today in the Talawa area in Anuradhapura. 4 security officers were injured and 2 of them are reportedly in critical condition. Police stated that the driver falling asleep at the wheel was the cause of the accident.
Welcome back. Now in business news, Sri Lanka's cumulative deficit in the trade account widened to $6 billion in 2024 compared to $4.9 billion in 2023. Releasing the external sector report for December 2024, the central bank noted that although Sri Lanka recorded the second highest annual export earnings in history, the expansion in import expenditure outpaced the expansion of export earnings, leading to the higher trade deficit. Sri Lanka's earnings from merchandise exports increased by 7.2% year-on-year to $12.8 billion in 2024. The figure marks the second highest annual export earnings in history. Meanwhile, expenditure on merchandise imports in 2024 amounted to $18.9 billion, reflecting a year-on-year increase of 12.1%, driven by growth in all major import categories. Additionally, foreign investments in the government securities market recorded a net outflow of $179 million in 2024. However, a net inflow was observed in the last 3 months of 2024, and the net inflow in December 2024 was $18 million. Gross official reserves stood at $6.1 billion at end 2024 compared to $4.4 billion at end 2023, supported by net purchases by the central bank from the domestic foreign exchange market during 2024 at historically high levels and funds received from multilateral institutions. The GOR includes the $1.4 billion currency swap facility with the People's Bank of China, which was renewed for 3 years in December 2024. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Purchasing Managers Index for construction stood at 51.4 in December 2024, indicating a continued expansion in construction activities. The latest report of the central bank said that the survey showed that new orders index was at a neutral threshold, indicating that the number of construction projects approved in December remained at a similar level as in the previous month. However, many respondents emphasized the need for more large-scale construction projects to sustain the industry growth. Meanwhile, the employment index continued to contract, yet at a slower pace in December. The outlook for construction activities for the next 3 months remained positive, mainly due to expected favorable weather conditions. Further, firms are looking forward to the government's infrastructure plans through the upcoming national budget. In other business-related news, Women in Management, a professional women's organisation, marked its 15th anniversary with a launch of 3 key initiatives. Women in Management celebrated its 15th anniversary with 3 initiatives that aim to have direct impacts on Sri Lanka's economy and tourism sector. The organisation's key initiatives include a women-led tourism initiative, an initiative focusing on students with financial struggles, and an initiative to empower individuals to embrace family and nature.
Plan is to bring women-led tourism to Sri Lanka. We want to make it educational. So we thought we'll bring all that, the culture and everything. It will be start in the month of March. They say you educate a woman, you educate a family. You empower a woman, you empower a family. And I think women has a role play in a family. We wanted to ensure at least children stay in school till the age of 16. So we thought we'll start a bank where children has to deposit trash. For the trash, we give them money. We collect the money and we give them a digital card where they can only buy food and stationeries.
Meanwhile, Women in Management also launched its publication 100 Impact Leadership Calendar 2025, featuring the organization's brands such as Women Top 50, Youth Top 40 and Men Top 10, which showcase individuals from diverse sectors, including new generation leaders. And that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining and have a good night.